Oh, hey, it's Brian and Max from IGN. Just this morning, Konami put some of their most beloved games of all time on PC for like the first time or their first time in a while, specifically through GOG. That's Good Old Games. Max, let's talk about it.
Yeah, this is great news for anybody who's, been trying to play the original Metal Gear Solid and hasn't, want to download it on PS3 or buy a PlayStation Classic, or I guess doesn't want to do things illegally. But yeah, the original Metal Gear, the 1987 one, Metal Gear Solid and Metal Gear Solid 2 Substance are all now on PC, along with the Konami Collector's Series, Castlevania and Contra, which includes Castlevania, Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest, Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse, Contra, and Super C. And this is all very cool, great news for people who want to play old Konami games. But yeah, I mean, Konami's a weird game company these days.
I feel like they've sort of lost their way a lot over the last few years. If you look at a company like Capcom, they've been basically doing a great job of revitalizing a lot of their classics. So why doesn't Konami just like make a bunch of brand new games in their beloved franchises and win gamers' hearts back over? Because it feels like it'd be pretty easy to do that.
Right, so first I want to mention we do occasionally get new Konami games. Last year we got Contra Rogue Corps, and it got like 5 out of 10s across the board, and nobody really seemed to enjoy it a whole lot, so we just don't really talk about that. But aside from that, Konami has been kind of transparent about the fact that they're not really a video game publisher in the same way that they used to be, and they haven't been for about 5 years. Yeah, we want them to make video games. They used to make some of the best video games ever, but since then they've kind of moved more into doing stuff on mobile or focusing on pachinko. And I think a lot of sort of how Western gamers look at Konami has a lot to do with how we were exposed to Konami growing up and kind of through the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. But Konami began as a jukebox rental and repair service, and kind of gradually segued into doing arcade cabinets, doing slot machines, pachinko machines. They also opened a bunch of fitness clubs. They have casinos around the world. They have a lot of other stuff in other places besides video games in the West. But as sort of Western gamers, I think it's very easy to look at them and be like, Konami really fell off. They're not with the game publisher they used to be. But they've never been first and foremost a game publisher, and it's sort of weird to kind of try to hold them to that standard.
Which is totally fair, and like obviously everyone knows like the pachinko thing is like almost become like a running joke, especially when Metal Gear like cutscenes and stuff like that, and they look gorgeous, and we're like, what game is this for? And it was like, oh, pachinko. But if you look at companies like Nintendo and Sony and even Capcom, they've had long histories of dipping their hands into various consumer products outside of the realm of games, but at the same time they do still service that core gamer audience by having this great stable of intellectual properties, franchises, and games, and even like lending some of those out sometimes. I'm fine with Konami making money off of all sorts of nonsense out there, and like treadmills and coin out machines and stuff like that. But then maybe, I don't know, give your Contras and your Metal Gears and your Castlevanias to like some competent indie devs, or loan them out.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to say what I think we should be doing, or what Konami should be doing with their IPs. I think a lot of people, we put up a video about weird rumors that Microsoft would buy Sega, which doesn't sound like that's going to happen. But one of the top comments in there was like, somebody needs to buy Konami. And that's sort of operating under the assumption that Konami isn't making any money. I think if you look at their gaming arm and you're like, wow, they're really not putting out any console games these days, they must be suffering. And it's like, no, they're not putting out any console games because that doesn't make any money for them compared to the other stuff that they're doing. Like, Konami doesn't need to sell their stuff off because they don't need to sell their stuff off, because they're sitting pretty. They're making profits. Like, their earnings are, doing just fine if you look at all the they're making 200 billion yen like last year. It's crazy. So okay, look at it this way. This is a weird comparison to make, but when you think about McDonald's is they're a hamburger restaurant. They're a fast food place you go to get burgers. If I told you like, yeah, McDonald's doesn't make pizza the way they used to, you'd be like, McDonald's makes pizza? They used to make pizza in the late 80s, possibly because of the popularity of hit Konami games, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Pizza became a whole thing, and McDonald's was like, let's try making the McPizza. And so in the late 80s...
It was very weird. You had to pull your car over to the side, and your dad would like stand outside and wait, and like 10 minutes after you went through the drive-thru, they'd bring it to you. It was not really fast food anymore.
Exactly, yeah. So like they had the McPizza, they tried it out in a few different locations, and they eventually were like, the full-size 11-minute to cook pizza isn't really in our line with our business model. Let's try smaller pan pizza. And then at the end of the day, they're like, maybe McDonald's isn't a pizza place. And to this day, there is one McDonald's in Orlando, Florida that still sells the McPizza, which is totally weird in its own regard, but I feel like that's kind of like Konami and console games, except the difference is McDonald's didn't make some of the most beloved pizza ever. Like, they don't have legions of fans who are like, bring back the McPizza. I'm sure there's a few of them out there, but like, I adore Metal Gear. Silent Hill is incredible. Castlevania is great. Like, I would love to see new installments in these wonderful franchises, but at the same time, to point a finger at Konami and be like, this company is a bad video game company. It's like, well, yeah, Konami is a bad video game publisher in the same way that McDonald's is a bad pizza restaurant. That's not really what they're trying to do. And at the end of the day, Konami's not trying to make entertainment, and McDonald's is not trying to make food. They're both trying to make money. They're companies trying to make money, and that's gross, and that's evil in the same way that so many things that are totally normalized are. I would love so much if we got the Capcom treatment of beloved Konami properties. But the difference is, Capcom has always been about making video games. Like, they made arcade games back in the day, and they were like, this is our wheelhouse. Like, Capcom doesn't make bottled water. They don't make treadmills. They don't have, like, you know, fitness classes. Konami does.
I can't kill Dracula in Konami's profits, you know, and I can't do like a Solid Snake stealth operation on one of their treadmills, and I can't, you know, do the 30-man code on a pachinko machine, although that's probably a thing on one of them at least. So, like, what's the solution here? I mean, should they sell off their IPs? Because it feels like right now they're just like hoarding a bunch of really awesome, beloved, classic video game franchises, and they're pushing them to the side in favor of much larger, consumer businesses that, frankly, like, I'm not really interested in. And while they do make the money, it kind of sucks for us as gamers because
it totally sucks. And I think it's gross. Like, I mean, you know, Konami came out and they quietly shut down everything Kojima was doing, and they kicked him to the curb and did him totally dirty. And I don't at all want to be like, I'm going to bat for Konami. It's incredibly frustrating that we know that there is this opportunity to make these incredible games and these incredible universes, and like, Konami's just kind of sitting there and occasionally being like, hey, Metal Gear Solid's on PC, which is cool, but it's like doing the absolute complete bare minimum. It would be really nice if they're not going to full on just, you know, sell off their licenses and their IPs, if they maybe did some kind of partnership program where other companies could approach them and be like, hey, listen, we want to make a new Silent Hill game. Here's our pitch. And they said, okay, that sounds like a good use of the IP. Give us a cut of the profits. You put up the money to make this thing. But like, I don't know if that's a realistic idea, but at the same time, I do think it's like, as gamers, I think we need to kind of move on from the idea of Konami being a video game company, because within that company, that's not what they're doing. Like, that's just, they make mobile games, they make Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Like, why would you spend millions of dollars developing a AAA console game when you could just you could sell like White Eyes Blue Dragon cards? Like, they just pieces of paper with pictures of monsters on them make more money than like mocapping Kiefer Sutherland. That's just a fact.
You're right. But I'm still upset at it, and I still want to say that I want a FromSoft Castlevania game, I want a Housemarque Contra game, and I'm not sure who's the right fit for Metal Gear.
Probably Hideo Kojima, but I don't really see that happening. Like, well, maybe, but I mean, it seems like kind of a long shot.
That's true.
But in the meantime, at the very least, we now have Metal Gear Solid 2: Sons of Liberty, Metal Gear Solid, and the original Metal Gear on PC. So hopefully somebody can get all sorts of weird modding in there, like I don't know, maybe high-res skin packs and some ray tracing, and maybe just replace all the Metal Gears with Thomas the Tank Engines and Macho Man Randy Savages.
Oh yeah!
But
sure, that'll be fun. So yeah, those games are out, and you can support them, and hopefully send the message that we should be making more of them. In the meantime, drop a comment and let us know what your favorite classic Konami game is, or which modern studio you'd love to see tackle a classic Konami franchise, and we'll talk about it. So for all things video games and Konami, Max, thank you so much. And I guess treadmills and pachinko machines
please don't get mad at me for seeming if at all like I was trying to protect Konami. I'm not. I'm mad at them. Give me back my Solid Snake. And I'm sorry if I offended anybody by knocking the McPizza.
Hey, as an Italian, nothing has offended me more than a McPizza. Although, if you live in Orlando, Florida, go get a McPizza and tell us all about it.
What could go wrong?
Thanks for watching.
熱中症や脱水症状予防のため、こまめな水分補給をお願いします。利用後の汗等の拭き取りのため、お客様1人に1枚ずつタオルを貸し出します。